Cryolipolysis is the ability to extract heat from the fat. Essentially what you do is to cool down the fat to about 5 degrees, which isn't cold enough to damage the skin, but it's cold enough to freeze and crystallize the fat within the fat cells. And then essentially, if you hold that for about an hour, you will find over the next 2 or 3 months that you've induced what we call programmed cell death. That means that those fat cells are just going to dissolve away. For instance, the love handles, or maybe a little bit of excess fat on your abdomen that you simply can't get rid of any other way. This is not for people who are overweight. This is for people who eat well, who exercise, who just have those localized bulges of fat that they simply can't diet away.
To put the gel pad on and then attach the suction cup. You're going to feel the pulling and the tugging. Okay. And mark the area that we're going to treat.
Stand back up, right?
No, I'm going to actually try it this way. Okay. Lean forwards for me. Okay, you feel it sucked in?
Yes.
Okay. A couple more pillows.
A couple more pillows? Okay.
Yes.
You'll feel a little suction at first, and then you start to feel a little cooling, and then it gets a little colder and colder and colder. So it does feel, it's a different feeling, and then you sit there for a little while, but then you get used to it, and the suction kind of goes away because you get to a point where it's so cold you don't feel it anymore. There's a little discomfort, and then that dissipates, and it's a relatively comfortable procedure.
We actually started the procedure, right? And this is the ones you just took today. Mm-hmm. I see a major... That was a very big concern of mine. I don't think surgery is something you should take lightly, and I didn't, and I would like to avoid it at any cost for anything if I can. And for something like this especially, I thought this was a wonderful idea, and it just worked out great.
Months, your body is actually going to take away the fat that had been crystallized before. So just as some patients do have some swelling and bruising afterwards, that's not unexpected, and some people will have some tenderness for maybe up to a few weeks afterwards. In theory, there's a small chance of a burn, but that little gel pad that we have on there actually really helps to protect the skin. And some people find that they have a little loss of sensation in the area also for a few months, and that's very similar to what you would see with liposuction, but it comes back.
So it has to be applied very carefully in a very limited manner, and you can't really do too aggressive with it in terms of cold, otherwise you're going to create a burn of the skin. So again, it's a superficial treatment. That cold doesn't penetrate very deeply. It's very limited in its effectiveness because of the low impact that you can have without damaging other cells. Do they really disappear, or do they simply shrink temporarily and then come right back? Even the people who are behind it say, if you don't really stay on a very rigid diet and work out and that sort of thing, that you're going to regain that fat. Well, that's because the fat cells are still there. So unless you really change your lifestyle, it's going to be a very temporary benefit.